Hello, welcome to the Knitting Pipeline Extra. I'm Paula. I live in Central Illinois, and this is a supplement to my audio podcast. I'm also a quilter, and in this episode, it's going to be a little different because I recorded some of this in early December so that I could show projects that I was giving away. And then there's also a possibility of a little vlog style at the end. But if you're not interested in that, I'll tell you when that's coming up and saying my thank yous and all that. So I'm now recording on January 15th, and these are a few things that I've done that will be going out of my household soon, I think. So the knitting and quilting are kind of mixed up in this, but there's not too much quilting except at the end. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, just watch and you'll find out. You can find show notes at knittingpipeline.com. And I am Prairie Piper on Ravelry. So let's look at a few projects. First of all, I have on my Eventide cardi. I've been looking through the book that this is in. It's Hannah Fettig's Texture. And this is the second one in the book. It's done in Quince & Company Finch, and I've been looking at this book because my daughter-in-law really likes her Georgetown cardigan, and I told her I'd make another sweater. That's actually in the other book, Home and Away by Hannah Fettig, but I've been looking through both of them to see. I really like Hannah's patterns, and so does my daughter-in-law, so that will be probably not real soon, but that's why I have the book out. Okay, in the previous one I showed you, a previous section. Okay, I'm going to break here because this is where I'm going to insert the part I recorded in December so that things are sequential somewhat. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, and I forgot to say thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so let's do that. Hello, welcome to a Knitting Pipeline Extra. It is almost Christmas. We're a week away from Christmas now, and I have a few things I'd like to show you before the holidays because they're going to be gifts, so I wanted to show you how they came out. First of all, last time I showed that I purchased, these little birds to go with a book by Kevin Hanks that Susan B. Anderson gave, bumped the table, my youngest granddaughter. And some people asked me where I'd gotten these, where they were available. We had purchased them at our local nature center, but they are actually from Audubon birds with real bird calls from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So you also support a good cause if you purchase these. We recently bought the bluebird, then we have the chickadee and the cardinal. Okay, I jumped right in without telling you any information. I am Paula, host of the Knitting Pipeline audio cast. I live in Central Illinois with my husband, and yeah, I do this as a supplement to the audio podcast. I'm also a quilter, so the quilting will be part of this episode, but it will be at the end, and I'll put in the notes below where the quilting is. There's only one thing really to show for quilting because it's a big project. All right, so last time I talked about making this magazine, and I've made a couple of projects out of number 4, which is lines. And the first one is Sleepy Kitten Set by Susan B. Anderson. I made, this is the first Sleepy Kitten I made. And I think this is just the cutest stuffed animal. It took a while to make. I talked a little more about it on the audio, but it's totally worth it. I made a couple of small modifications just with the dress. I put butterfly type sleeves instead of short sleeves. And I made the tail and I-cord instead of knitting around on DPNs. Other than that, I knit as best as I could exactly like the pattern, although I think I might have veered a little bit from it because the size turned out, I think, to be a bit larger than intended, but it's fine. So this is for my granddaughter that's 2.5, and then of course baby sister had to have one. So I made one that's similar, well, the same but different, I guess you could say. It turned out a little bit shorter, by accident, and the dresses are intentionally different so they can tell the difference. And the little sister has on leggings, so they can tell the difference with that too. Then also part of the pattern was a sleep sack for the kittens, and these were super simple to sew. So then you can just put the kitten to sleep since they are sleepy kittens. And they have their little sleep sack with a built-in pillow. That was really fun to do. So the irony of the bird fabric is not lost on me, that the kitten is in a bird fabric, and then the other one is a floral, but it's also gray and white. So again, similar but not the same. So then this kitten goes in here, and then they are both in their kitten sacks. And as you know, little children tend to like to put things in and out of containers. So those are the kittens. And then I also made, in the same issue, there was a cat basket. I cannot think of the name. The last name's Ishida. So this is a fabric basket. Is that the front? Yeah. It's embroidered on the front. I have a different recording device today. My computer says it doesn't have any storage space on it, so I'm using my phone, and I'm unaccustomed to it. So this is the cat basket, which is embroidered, and I can't bring it closer. It's a long story. You don't need to know all the details, but yeah, this was fairly simple to make except for sewing this bottom on. I've done this type of thing before, and then I put a little embroidered initial on there, and the inside is kind of a golden and cream color. And of course, I had to make 2 of those as well because there are 2 of them. And then this one has her initial on it so they can tell the difference. So if they don't want to put the kittens in their sleep sack, they can go in their cat basket. And then, yeah, this was really a fun thing to make. And yeah, there they are. So that is the Sleepy Kitten set by Susan B. Anderson, and she does have kits for the Sleepy Kitten in the Barrett Wool Co. In her yarn company website. Now that I have these here, I think I already showed these. I think I did before. That was a Dr. Seuss colorway. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is kind of funny. Remember last time I showed you these little felted, they're not felted, they're wool felt sewn together, these little animals. And I wanted to make another one, and there was one in the Making magazine. And I started making it last night, and I think this one is going to get abandoned. The pieces are so small, and it sort of ends up, for me, looking like a bat instead of a cat, and I don't really like it. So I got this far, but I don't know. I just don't care for it. And these little tiny pieces are supposed to be sewn right sides together and then turned, and they are, I'm not kidding, they are like 1/4 of an inch wide, and I just wasn't going to do that, so I just whip stitched them with wrong sides together, and they just look a little like bat wings, and I'm not fond of this, so I don't think I'm going to finish it at all. But I might make a couple more of these because I was going to give these to the baby, but I have a feeling that big sister might want some too, so we'll see. And then she is getting a pair of mittens, and the Jan Brett mittens book. I'm going to embroider on these and to embellish them. So at some point I might put a photo in here so you can see what the embellishments look like. It won't be anything too fancy. I just like to freelance, or what do you call it, freestyle on the embroidery. I bought another book on super cute felt animals because they are fun to do. And I might go with this. This is a book by Laura Howard, and I'm really enjoying these little felt animals and critters and things. So I might go ahead and try one out of this book. It looks a little more reasonable than that cat, but I don't care for that at all. Okay. Wow, I'm whipping through this stuff. Last time when I talked about how it was difficult to cut the small pieces out, and maybe just marking and cutting the pieces in general. A couple of people mentioned to me to use freezer paper. So you trace your pattern on freezer paper and then cut it out, and it has a slightly waxed side to it. So then you use an iron no steam, and you put that shiny side down on your fabric, and then the wax melts ever so slightly and it sticks to the fabric. So then you can cut around the freezer paper. And I had totally forgotten I had done that before. So thank you to those of you who suggested it. And I pulled these things out. I took a wool felting class several years ago, and the teacher actually used that technique. This is kind of I don't know what it is. It's filled with rice or something, and it's a little wool felt picture. And then I had this was actually part of a felted purse I made, but I didn't want the purse, so I cut this thing off and use it like a coaster. So I had done that before, but it just sort of, I don't know, I guess it flew out of my mind. So it is a good thing to do, and these books actually, this one that I bought definitely tells about how to do that. And then that pretty much covers the sewing there. There's the quilting still coming up, but let me show you a couple more knitted things. The shawl I'm wearing here is a really old one that I've made. It is called A Shawl Like Kate. I had to look that up because it's been that long. A Shawl Like Kate. This is when Kate Middleton was, before she got married, and she was seen in a parking lot of a grocery store with this green shawl with ruffles on it, and there were all kinds of patterns that came out about it. So this one is a big shawl. It is a free pattern. It's by Kat Wong. I did modify it slightly, the ruffle. And it is knitted in Quince & Company. I think it's chickadee. Yes, it's chickadee in the bird's egg colorway, which I always love and enjoy that. So another shawl that I made that I talked about on the audio is the one that I started at the Eagle Crest retreat that I host here near my home of Washington, Illinois. This was begun in the workshop by Steve of Dramatic Knits and of the Leading Men Fiber Arts. And yeah, it's one of these asymmetrical shawls. It's a triangle, but it's not an equilateral triangle. And the yarn is Knit Circus. I got it on the swap and shop table. Thank you so much, Sarah. I enjoyed it entirely. And it is, let's see, I think it's the Greatest of Ease. Yes, it's Greatest of Ease base. And the colorway was, I think it was Celebration or something like that. Anyway, it was a club colorway, and I really enjoyed that gradient. I think that the Boomerang style shawl is perfect for a gradient or any time that you want to use up all the yarn. I don't know where that will go. I have a feeling it'll go somewhere. I don't know. And then these are the socks that I talked about on the audio that I made from yarn that I purchased in Iceland. It's not Icelandic yarn. It is heart yarn. I think it's like red heart. Well, I don't know. It's Strömpagarn and the jacquard type colorway. So it was fun. These are for me. And now that I've shown them to you, they will be whisked off the sock blockers. Okay, I only have one quilting thing to show. I might also put at the end of this, there might be a little bit of vlogging that I did early in the month. I thought maybe I'll try that Vlogmas. I just couldn't keep up with that, but I did some, and I might show you some of that. We'll see. We'll see. I also might not put this out. I probably won't put this out until after Christmas because I don't want anyone to see the next thing that's coming up. I don't think she ever watches the video, but just in case. I don't want it to be out there because it's a surprise. I decided to make a quilt for my middle son and his wife that I will give to them in a week or so. It is from the book by Jera Brandvig, Quilt As You Go, and the pattern is called Ballard. I think it's Ballard Blocks. So there it is. It's a big, pretty big quilt for a throw size. It's not for a bed, but it's 60 by 72 inches, which is a pretty good size. I would not have been able to make a quilt this quickly. I started it December 1st and I finished it December 14th or 15th, except for hand sewing the binding, which I kind of regretted that I did the hand sewing, not the binding, because for some reason it was quite a chore. And I usually enjoy doing that, but for some reason, maybe because I just have so much to do, I didn't enjoy the hand sewing at all. So you can see the blocks are tilted. Every other block, one is tilted to the left and the other is tilted to the right. I used it was a collection called Indigo Dreams, I believe. I'll try to remember to put that in the show notes. I still have the information. So they were these indigo that looked like indigo dyed blocks. And then I had a jelly roll called Obeyed, A-U-B-A-D-E, that I thought might work. Now, the pattern uses plain fabric, so this is kind of busy, and I'm worried about a little bit that way. But I had the jelly roll, I had the indigo prints, and I thought it would work. And I think it does, but it took me a while to kind of embrace it, I guess. I hope they like it. Anyway, to be on the safe side, I got this really great backing. So I figure if they don't like the front of this, they can always use the back. And it just looked very much their style in the gray and the off-white. So that is from Quilt As You Go, the Ballard blocks. Let's see, the patterns in that book by Jera Brandvig are based on, I think they're neighborhoods in Seattle. I'm sure they are. So there must be a Ballard neighborhood that this one is named after. And there wasn't a lot of piecing on it. I have to say I didn't really love sewing on it. It was fine. And I knew I could get it done. And that was the big thing, because I just decided that I wanted to do a quilt for them for Christmas and realized that I better get busy on it. So the Quilt As You Go, as I said before, you make each block at a time and quilt each block. I did very simple quilting on these. Most of the time I did wavy lines, or on some of them I did follow the lines of the fabric, and some have diagonals. And I purposefully did not do a lot of heavy quilting because I have found that the heavily quilted ones tend to be a little stiffer, which would make sense because the density of the quilting. So these are, for the most part, the lines are maybe an inch and looks like maybe an inch to an inch and a quarter apart. And that will, I think, make it a really nice soft quilt. I think that's all I have. This is very short for quilting and knitting. I have some other items that are in progress that I'll share with you after the new year. Thanks so much for watching. You can reach me on Ravelry. I am Prairie Piper. My blog is knittingpipeline.com, as is the audio podcast, and I'm Knitting Pipeline on Instagram and on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. You can probably tell I don't have notes today. So yeah, now it's January 15th, and I'm going to show you the little cardigan I made for my granddaughter. This is Gramps by Tin Can Knits. It looks huge here. It does look kind of big. It is a size 3 to 4, and my daughter-in-law asked me to make extra long sleeves. I'm not sure that that was necessary, but I want you to see the buttons. I forgot to mention on the audio that I had purchased these buttons. They're vintage buttons, and I had purchased them at Stitches Midwest a couple of years ago, I think. And yeah, they worked perfectly for this. The yarn, the red is Plymouth Encore, I think. Plymouth something, I can't remember. And it is an acrylic wool blend. My daughter-in-law wanted, she said it'd be nice to have play sweater that could just go in the washing machine. Boy, everything is very light today in here, which is great, but sometimes it's a little bit blown out. But that's because we got snow last night, so there's a lot of brightness outside. Okay, so then when I was in North Carolina at Christmas, I went to Warm and Fuzzy in Cary, which is a great yarn shop, and I got this blue, well, it's called charcoal, but to me it looks kind of a really, really dark navy slash gray. And it's a tonal, it's really, really pretty, and it was the perfect accent color. Sorry, the buttons hit the table there. And I talked on the audio about my problem with the pockets. I don't know, you'll be able to see it here. This pocket is much closer. Well, it's really only about 3 stitches closer, but it on a small sweater, it really shows. I think somehow I didn't have the same stitch count on the 2 fronts. And I don't know how that happened because I'm kind of an obsessive counter when it comes to knitting. I see a little end poking through the front. I'll have to fix that. But so then I made these little pocket pals, I call them, little felted friends to stick in the pockets. So when I send it off to my granddaughter, it'll have those in there. I'm really happy with it. It was a great pattern. It's from 9 Months of Knitting, which is Tin Can Knit's ebook, and I think you can also get it as a separate, I just wanted to make sure I was recording. Okay, I am. A separate pattern, digital download. You can get it if you just want this one. And the sizes go all the way up to an adult extra, extra large or something like that. So that is Gramps, and let's see. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. We'll try to get some photos of her actually wearing it. Let's see now. Oh, the little stuffies. I've told you about this book before. This is Fabulous Felt 30 Easy to Sew Accessories and Decorations by Corinne Lapierre. If you just have basic hand sewing skills, you can make these, and they're very quick to make. You can make a simple one in an hour. The little fox one was supposed to be a pin, but I just altered it a little bit and just made it without the pin, Sleeping Fox. I should have said what that was. And then the little Russian doll. And this is another book I've purchased since then called Felties, How to Make 18 Cute and Fuzzy Friends. These look a little more like amigurumi to me. They have little quirky eye patches and things like that, but I'm going to try some of these as well. They're fun to make. Okay, now I'm going to show some, well, I've talked about on the last episode, I talked about the Knit Night hat by Judy Marples. I tried this pattern out. I had asked my friend Nancy if she had any suggestions for people who are confident beginners or a little bit beyond just the basic, and she suggested this hat pattern. I'm not going to put it on because my hair is already a wreck today and it would be even worse, but it does fit me. It has a slip stitch brim. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and Judy Marples is a well-known designer, and it's all very well done, and I enjoyed knitting it. The yarn is from Rutsen Studio in Rhinebeck, New York, and it's variegated. I loved the way it worked up. It just was very even, and it was fun watching that neon green pop up now and then. Must have been a pretty, well, it was a good size skein, and I used 64 grams for this hat, and I have 62 grams left. So I could make another hat, just make it a little smaller size, or we'll see. I like to try to use it up now while I have it out. So that is the Knit Night hat. I really think it's probably beyond the skill set of most of the ladies in the group, just because a lot of them are still having trouble distinguishing knit and purl stitches. So to introduce a slip stitch might be a little much for some of them. Sorry, I just made a noise with that. There are two things I'm going to show you now because I'm not sure that I'll have them in my possession when I next record, even though I haven't talked about them on the audio podcast. One is Boneyard by Stephen West. This was Stephen West's first published pattern. It's still a classic. It's a triangular. Sorry, I got a message on my phone and I didn't know what was going on there. Okay. This is Boneyard by Stephen West. I did it in Lion Brand Woolies because it's kind of charity knitting. It turned out pretty nice, I think. This is the way I like to wear the triangular ones most of the time. Put the point in the front and then bring it around. Sorry, I was out of the frame there. And I've washed it. I did wash it by hand, although it is machine washable. If you're not familiar, most people are familiar with Lion Brand Woolies. It's only 10% wool, but that 10% makes a difference, I think. It feels pretty good. And Boneyard is a great classic triangular shawl. And there's that little garter ridge to add a little interest. Stephen West was in Urbana, Illinois, which is not far from here. It's where Close Knit is. And that was his yarn shop, Close Knit. And it was Brigida of Close Knit that encouraged him to publish that first pattern. And it is a free pattern. I really like. That's the first time I made it, though. I also did I might be giving this away, I'm not sure. This is the Land of Sweets cowl by Helen Stewart, although this is only about a quarter of what the actual, or maybe a third of what the actual cowl was. But I thought I would wear it more if I decide to keep it. I would wear it more if it weren't quite so deep. So I made it like this, and I'll be talking about that on the audio, but just so you can see what's coming up, I'll show it here. Offhand, the darker pink is a tweed, and that was from Nicole of Hugh Loco. And then, I don't know what that little blip is. I guess it's okay. And then the other one, I can't remember now what it is, but I'll talk about it when I have my notes in front of me. An acquisition that I recently got is a set of ChowGoo interchangeables. I've said before, and I've owned up to my needle obsession. And when I was at Rhinebeck, Hope, who is Hope H on Ravelry, had her set of ChowGoo, and I tried them out, and I really liked them. I was getting really frustrated at not having shorter lengths of circular needles. It just seems like I can't keep track of those. These are 4-inch tips, and then they have two different size cables. One size cable for the larger needles and one for the smaller needles. It has a great case, and there's a little zip pocket in the front. I've recently started, just yesterday, I started the Lush cardigan by Tin Can Knits, which I've done before. I really like it so much, I'm making another one. And I pulled out the size 7 and hooked it up. And I just really like knitting with these. The points are great for lace knitting or really for any kind of knitting. And I think these are really going to be a staple for me. They are metal. I like wood and metal. It just depends on my mood. I'm very fickle when it comes to needles, but I really like these. And I could see this would be a great set to take with me when I'm traveling because they can do both the short length needles and the longer ones. Although I will say the shortest cable, even with the 4-inch ones, felt like there was a little bit of a strain to me, but I haven't really tried it yet with a project. I wanted to mention a pattern that's come out. It's called Kindness is Everything by Jaala Spiro of Knit Circus Yarns. This is a beautiful shawl pattern that uses Knit Circus gradient and Knit Circus speckled fingering weight. And she has a knit along going, and it is a free pattern. So you might want to download that and consider joining in on the knit along. Kindness is Everything. It seems like it's very appropriate today with it being Martin Luther King Day here in the US. Okay, I'm going to pause it and gather up my quilting. If you are not at all interested in quilting, but you don't really know till you see it, right? But anyway, thanks for watching, and I do appreciate it very much. If you can subscribe to the channel or give it a thumbs up, that would be great. I love your comments too. Maybe next time I'll try to go through the comments and answer some of the questions on the show. So, okay, here we go. I can't remember. I think it was back in the fall. I made a Christmas/winter quilt using the book Quilt as You Go. I can never think of the subtitle. It's Made Modern, something like that. And it's by Jera Brandvig. I talk about it all the time. So this is the quilt I made, and I made pillows. I'm just going to show this as a refresher course here because this was the quilt, which I still really like, and the backing is flannel sheet. So I made that, and then I had scraps left over, so I decided to make pillows. I'm so happy with these. Let's see, this was the first one I made, and I used the Quilt as You Go method for this. It looks huge. It's a 16-inch pillow form, and it has the envelope in the back, so you can easily pop it out to wash it. So there's the cardinal fabric. Now I hope you can see, there you can see that. I had some linen. I put linen in there, and then I embellished the pillow with some embroidery. So here's some. I took that class at Stitches that was by Anna Zilborg. So I added some embroidery there, and then I did, I don't know if you can see it up here, there's a line of embroidery along here, the snow line, and I did try some in the birds, but I didn't like it. I left it in what I did, but anyway, then I found I had this striped fabric, which I have talked about before. I bought it on Etsy. It's a Japanese line called Lecien, Lecien or Ein, I can't remember. And I just thought it was perfect for these pillows. The second pillow is different, but you can tell they go together. I put the cardinal fabric in the middle. So this one, I thought I'll just embellish the one. I'll leave the other one plain. But once I did it on that, and it doesn't take that long to do this type of sashiko running stitch. So there, I think you can see it. I had the linen on the sides. I don't think it took me more than 20 minutes maybe to do the side embroidery. And then I put some at the top here, just running stitches along in white. I didn't put any red thread on this one. And then at the bottom, I think the sashiko embroidery really adds interest to the pillows, and I'm just super happy with them. They look great out. They don't look, I mean, if you turn around, they look Christmassy because that was a sheet. Those are Christmas sheets, flannel that I had, and there they are. Those are the pillows. Then I decided, I got in the mood. As you know, I've done a lot of Civil War stuff lately. I've done miniatures, if you've watched the show before, and if not, you can go back and see. I've been doing a lot of Civil War fabric, but my other love is 1930s reproduction fabrics. So I thought of a couple people I might make baby quilts for. One of them is a boy, for sure. And then I decided to make a toddler quilt, but I'll show the toddler quilt next time, but it's very similar to this one. And this is the baby quilt, but it's not finished yet. The top is pieced. It is square, and I must say, these polka dot corner stones, corner patches, really pulled it together. There is a little bit of black in some of the prints, and I was trying to decide. I just felt like it needed something else. I found this polka dot fabric in my stash. It does make me a little dizzy, but anyway, I decided to add that to the border. And when I'm done with this and show you what I'm going to do for the binding, I think it makes it even more special, but that'll be a surprise for next time. I'm just super happy with this. I used the book 3 Times the Charm. I can't remember if it was volume 1 or volume 2. I'd say the only problem with that, the quilts are really simple, but one thing they do not do is tell you to square up your blocks. And if you don't square up your blocks, things can get a little wonky. And I would say that'd be my only advice to you if you are making from those books. But it was simple to put together. I think I started it last weekend and got both quilts up almost to this phase. The second quilt is a little bigger and it doesn't have the borders on yet, but I've cut them out. They're all ready to sew on. I'll probably do that after I get done recording here. So that is, yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I think I'm going to quilt it with maybe Stitch in the Ditch, and then I'll do some quilting down these white crosses. When you first look at this, you think it's a 4-patch, a traditional 4-patch in a way. It looks like a 4-patch with sashing, but the actual block is, this is a block here. So the block actually includes this white. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's a 4-patch. No, it's not really, but it has that illusion. It's one of those things that looks more difficult than it really is. So that's fun. But it was a little bit, you have to make, it was a little bit tricky to make sure that all the white lines intersect properly and that you have all your edges together. But that's what I'm working on now. I really feel like doing another baby quilt. I'm kind of making a list of people that I know they're having babies because I'm not always in the mood to do them. So I figure I can make them up ahead. Back up a little to the knitting. I forgot to say that when I wound this excess from the Knit Night hat, I just wanted to bring this up, that I like to, you don't have to have a Nosta pin. I should bring one over here, but I do have a video if you want to see how I wind on a Nosta pin. But if you don't have a Nosta pin, toilet paper core works really well. And I was showing this to my knitting group on Wednesday nights. If you live or you're visiting in the Peoria area, check in with me because you would always be welcome to come to my Wednesday night community knit night. And we don't meet we have 2 semesters. I turned it into October, for around the 1st of October to the middle of December, and then middle of January up to the end of April. And then we take off for the summer, May through September. So that's how it works. But I showed them how to wind a hand pull yarn, and I did it with this. And you could even make, if you wanted to, you could make a little slit in your cardboard to put the end through so that you don't lose it. And then you can just pop it out, and it's just like a normal center pull skein. Okay, that looks like everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. Now, following this, I think I'll put in some of, okay, confession here. I considered doing Vlogmas. So I did a little recording and I realized there was no way I was going to keep up with that. I'm having a problem with my computer right now that it keeps saying it's full. I don't know why, because it shouldn't be so much I have stored in the cloud, so it shouldn't be. But anyway, it wasn't viable for me to do Vlogmas. So I may include some of that so you can see the process of the indigo, the quilt that I made. The quilt was a big hit, by the way. I wanted to say that they seemed to really like it, and I was really happy with the end result. So that's it for now. If you want to see show notes, I'll have a few links and list the main bullet points I've talked about here on knittingpipeline.com. Thanks so much. It is Tuesday, December 5th right now, and I'm getting ready to record the audio podcast for this week. I have my notes written and my setup here with my computer right there. I have to get my microphone plugged in. I've closed the doors so that the heating unit is not so loud in here, although I can still hear it. I don't know if the microphone picks it up, but I do little magic tricks to get rid of things like that. I'll show you a couple things that I've been working on in the last couple days. I got rid of my husband for a couple hours too. He's off to the gym, so I better get busy. But before that, I'm going to show you a couple things I've been working on. It is Sunday afternoon. Well, it's about noon, actually. I did not record or take very many photos yesterday. I went to Bloomington with friends and retreat pals, and we went to Le Mouton Rouge. We went to lunch and then to Le Mouton Rouge. So my husband's out running and I'm working on some projects down here, and then we're going for a hike. So these are the feet to the second little sleepy kitten I'm making out of the Making magazine. Well, anyway, I think I showed you that on yesterday's video. I just watched some other people's Vlogmas things and I thought, oh, mine are so crude. But anyway, you'll see what I'm doing. And then I've made quite a few of the squares for the quilt. I'll take you over and you can see. Here are some of the ones I've made completely. They're not squared off yet, but kind of see what I'm up to here, and they're turning out pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it, and I think I can get it done. I'm not sure, but I believe I can get it done. Here I have some of my tools. I've decided knitting the little kittens, or the sleepy kittens, I just do it at the table here, and then I have, because I have to follow the pattern almost line by line, or there's some places where you just have plain knitting, but not a whole lot. And then this is the Jenny the Potter little tray I got. So I just have my sewing up needle, a stitch marker, I don't think I need more than one, my scissors, and then my extra DPNs that I need. So that's about all I have to show right now. And maybe I'll get a little more footage today when we go out on our hike. This is supposed to be our last really nice day for a while. So let's take you over to the window. I'm on the lower level. Most of our living space is up above, but I like it down here because I can see right out to the woods.